Hello and welcome to End to End, the podcast where we talk about all things pony and a few things not. I'm your host, Duhad. Joining me, as always, are Firebolt,
Hello.
the Lightning Rabbit,
Hello.
replacing Cabral because we like him better, Delta,
Really?
close enough,
I highly doubt that.
Well, less crazy at least.
and our special guest star for this episode is Mr. Peter New, the voice of Big Macintosh on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, as well as an award-winning filmmaker.
Yup.
Now, Mr. New, I am a huge fan of your work. Your documentaries have really changed the way all of us really look at the world.
My documentaries?
Yes, your documentaries. They're just incredibly powerful.
I'm really not sure what you're talking about.
Well, the documentary you made about the first manned mission to Mars was deeply moving for me.
Oh, well, yes.
I mean, I felt personally cheated
well,
when you only won
As
3
I
Oscars
was the
for it.
first man on Mars, I thought I better, vine it.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly it's a complete shame that you're only given 3 Oscars for it because really,
Yeah.
Best Actress is such a narrowly defined category.
Well, yeah, and I thought, I thought it was a bit of a ripoff I didn't get nominated for Best Sound Design because I was able to find a way to speak in open space.
Yeah, and which,
So,
science is impossible. Peter New says
No. I say no.
in
We can do
space,
this. Yeah.
and you can hear him, which is proof that he was right.
Mm-hmm.
Peter New has now proven that in space they can hear you scream.
Yes.
Well, they can hear me scream in space, but I'm not sharing that technology with the world because, as we discussed just before the podcast began, technology is inherently evil. Isn't that true?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. Which is why I am not using a computer to talk to you,
Yes.
nor am I dressed,
Well,
because
Um,
I shun all technology.
3 minutes
Uh,
in,
even the
extremely
loom.
fair.
podcast has taken a
personally
very
have never
strange
owned.
turn.
I've never owned a toaster personally because
It just took a strange turn. I thought it took a strange turn when we started talking about my Mars documentary. So
Well,
there you go. We opened with that. All right.
Hey, sorry. So yeah, by the way, for those of you tuning in, from Radio is Magic, this is our first episode we're recording for that radio station, and after they hear this, it'll probably be our last.
Oh.
Well,
It's nice to hear you
Well,
all.
it was fun while it lasted.
But yes, Peter New, you are the voice of Big Macintosh on My Little Pony, which, surprise,
that's actually true.
yeah, that is the first true statement we've said on the podcast so far.
That may be the second true statement. Actually.
True.
Yeah.
But you have, you've been working on the show since the beginning.
More or less, yeah.
More or less. Since season 1. How were you brought onto the show? I mean, obviously you auditioned, all that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
But how did you? How were you brought? How was the show brought to your attention?
Just the same way that any other audition happens. I am usually occupied doing something really glamorous, like partying with rock stars and whatever. And then I get a phone call on my cell phone from my agent saying, "Hey, listen, you have an audition tomorrow. It's for whatever show." And in this case, it was an audition where it was just me and maybe 1 or 2 other guys at the studio, and it was the morning of the recording session. So the recording session was going to begin at 9 o'clock, and my audition was something at at 8:45 or something. And so each of us takes a turn going into the room and saying the lines, and then. And I guess Lauren Faust was probably on the telephone. But an interesting thing happens in an audition. You walk in the room and everything kind of goes blank, and it's just you and the paper and the microphone. You kind of vaguely wave at everybody on the other side of the glass, or if there's someone and you kind of don't remember anything because your nerves are so heightened and whatever. So I said my thing, and the way this particular kind of audition works, which is not all that common, thank goodness, is you then walk back out of the studio and you wait in the sort of ante-room with the other guys that auditioned, and then they discuss inside the room, and then they come out and they pick one, and you get to stay and record the episode with everybody who has been arriving that has already got a job, like Andrea and Ashley and Tabitha and everybody. And then the other guys have to just go home. So we call it the Walk of Shame audition, because
that sounds horrifying.
Because it's terrible. At least in other auditions, I mean, the exact same thing happens at every audition, where you go in and you do your thing, and then they discuss, and then they pick one. But usually, you sort of are buffered by the fact that you'll just never hear about it, and you'll be back into your life partying with the rock stars, and going about your business, and you'll just not hear, and so you just sort of assume that somebody else got it. But it's sort of terrifying when you're standing there with the other guys going, "It's going to be one of us." It's like a game show. It's awful. And I've been on both sides of the Walk of Shame, obviously, as I think all of us here in town have, and it's absolutely thrilling to get the job, and absolutely mortifying to not get it. But that's got nothing to do with Pony particularly. That's just
it's fun. It's an interesting fun fact.
Yeah. So that's how I got the job.
So now,
I guess I said things right.
Right. Now, speaking of auditions, was there multiple parts that you auditioned for, or was there just Big Mac?
It was just Big Mac in this case. In a case like Littlest Pet Shop, I went for several of the roles, but obviously only got the one. But that's because I was auditioning for the leads, and Big Mac didn't come in until episode 4, so they didn't. I don't think they really knew at that time what his future was going to be. So they auditioned him. They auditioned for an actor, and they said, well, he might come back, and he may say a lot more than just yup or nope, but we're not really sure yet. So, this is an audition to hopefully keep bringing you in, and I'm delighted that they've decided that they did want to keep bringing him back, because I love going in and saying yep every couple of weeks.
I'm actually curious, considering the fact that right when they brought you in initially, it was for a very, very small part that expanded to an extent as the show continued. How much did they have you actually read in that initial audition? Did they actually write up a whole bit, extended bit? Did they just give you a bunch of Shakespeare? Did they say, here, just read yep or no, and we're gonna pick the that one word that we like the best?
There was an idea that they wanted him to be this kind of font of wisdom, simple country wisdom, and so they'd written a monologue that has never appeared anywhere in the show, where he, I don't remember exactly what it was, but that's kind of like, well, it seems to me that if you look at it a certain way, kind of, and then rambling on for a paragraph. And so I had to read that out. And the trick to that for them was you had to do it quickly enough that it was vital and animatable, but slowly enough that it was true to the character. And then there was a bunch of yups and nopes. And so... but then when we did the episode, there were, that episode I actually said quite a bit. How do you like them apples and all that.
How often are you actually brought into the studio for the show? I mean, I know that Big Macintosh, if you watch the show, obviously, he appears fairly regularly, but he doesn't have lines as regularly as he actually appears.
Yeah, I don't come in when I don't have lines.
No, obviously, but I mean, like,
but I always come in when I do have lines.
I mean, do they call you in fairly regularly, or is this something where even though the the show has you as a relatively important character, you maybe come in 3 or 4 times in a month, and that's about it?
Well, I mean, I come in once for every episode that I'm in. Right. So, however many episodes I've done now, I've been into the studio that many times.
Quick, someone Google that. How many episodes?
somewhere around 18, I think.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, most people ask the question slightly differently. They say, do they bring you in every time you have to say just yup? And the answer is yup.
It is kind of odd, because the thing is, you are kind of one of the names of the people that people who follow the show behind the scenes would have to come up pretty much instantly on a list of the top 8 actors or so who who are going to be there. But yeah, I mean, your character actually hasn't had that many lines. They haven't had that many appearances. He hasn't had that many appearances in,
Yeah.
over 60 some episodes. You've had, well, like 18 episodes where you've
Something.
actually spoken, and most of
it's-
those are like a line.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm quite pleased that despite not being verbose, he's a character that people really relate to. I think he's got a lot going on, but he's able to kind of cut through nonsense and find the sensible solution. He's sort of the common sense wisdom, right?
Right.
And he can sum things up just with that word. And I think people relate to him maybe because he's I guess maybe because we've all been in that situation where we're overwhelmed and feeling stressed, and it's nice to remember that sometimes the solution is very, very easy, and you're just kind of spinning around in your own head. And I think he kind of reminds people that it's easy to just be calm and stable and find your solutions that way or something. I'm sure there's like a single word for that, but,
Probably, but that's
but I
it's
don't
a,
know it.
it's a decent little life lesson there. I can kind of see how they take you as someone to bring in to play a more down to earth wisdom sort of character.
Well, yeah, because I'm just like him. I barely talk at all.
Yeah, I can definitely see a professional voice actor just being like, yeah, no, I never talk.
Yeah,
Really.
I should just answer all your questions with 3 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It's pretty nice.
That would be an
Incidentally,
interesting challenge.
To our
Yeah, but-
audience, I would just say, take the words that Peter News just said to heart, because it's probably the most intelligent thing you'll hear on this podcast.
Hey, I should be sillier then.
No,
Here to
well, you can do
be-
if you want.
Yeah, actually, I did have a sort of a follow-up question to the last one I'm sure you've gotten a million times before, but you're probably one of the actors who's actually a bit more in touch with the fandom than most. I know that you've appeared several times at conventions, on podcasts. You have appeared regularly on Stay Brony, My Friend.
I've only actually done Stay Brony, My Friends once, I think.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, but Dusty and I spoke about doing it again, so I'll probably do it again soon.
God, I could have sworn I heard you at least twice. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Point
Maybe.
is,
Maybe I've done it twice. I think, but only once or twice.
I know you did a panel with him and Andrew Francis.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, the point is, you've been relatively, connected to the fandom. So how did you actually find out about it?
Really, it was through Facebook. I had sometime before I found out about the fandom, I had realized that I didn't want to be among. I have numerous actor friends on Facebook, and all of us sort of do this thing where you'll go to an audition, it'll go really well, and you'll be overcome with the need to write a status about it, and I realized that I actually found it sort of distasteful that that on my news feed there were all these people going, yeah, I just rocked out that audition, which I'd just been at, and I thought, oh, I would like to keep my news feed on my profile just for regular stuff. And then I started this fan page so that I could say, hey, I just rocked out that audition, where people would be expecting it because that is what it's for. And so if people were interested in hearing about that, then that's where they could go. And so I'd started this thing, and that was working out very nicely for me. I had a couple of hundred people that had decided they really wanted to hear about how I'd rocked out auditions, and then literally overnight, one night it went up by, it was like suddenly it was 1,000 people or so, and I had no idea what was happening really, and so then I started Googling. I was getting all sorts of questions that I didn't understand, because I hadn't heard about the community, and I hadn't, or sort of vaguely heard about the community, I think, but I hadn't really paid any attention to it. And so I was getting questions with terminology that I didn't really get or didn't understand, and I wanted to sound educated when I answered. Um, and so I started Googling things, and of course that leads down the rabbit hole. If you,
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
Oh.
and so I sort of quickly learned that you don't want to search certain terms.
Yeah.
But that made me initially a little bit skeptical of the whole thing. But at the same time, I thought, well, that can't be everybody. That can't be, so many of these people seem to be,
Not
genuine
insane.
and you know, and so that then you had to go through the whole process of that so many people go through, where you first of all assume that you assume that it's perverted, and then you find out, okay, maybe it's not, and then you assume that it's ironic, and then you find out, okay, well, gee, really it isn't, and so eventually I landed in this place where I realized that that is involved with this fandom, for the most part, is really genuine and very earnest, and I realized that there's such a tremendous value in that I decided that I was quite happy to engage with the community.
The community definitely appreciates it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you very
Head, of
much.
course, speaks for the entire community.
Oh, I am the most important member of the community.
Of
I've heard
course.
that.
Yeah,
I
if you
heard
go to
that.
like
That
any
NASA,
social-
when I was on my way to Mars, they made sure
Yeah.
I had that information.
They
I
made
am
sure.
also the most honest person in the entire history of
Oh, yeah.
time and space. It's
Mm.
I don't like to brag about it, but it's true.
Of course not. He does have a legendary status that precedes before
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, he is the singularity from which the universe was born.
Of course. I mean, I've been told that he actually fosters new star systems inside his beard.
It is
Yeah.
a hobby of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens.
New universes,
Mm.
everything.
Impressive man, really. I don't know why he does a podcast with us, if that's what
Yeah.
his life is really like.
Well,
but,
this
you
is
know.
his his way of blowing off steam.
Okay.
When you're in charge of the creation of the entire universe,
Just gotta
you need
take
to
a
have
break
a podcast.
sometimes. Of
Yeah.
course.
It helps you unwind.
It does help you unwind, and just to know that this will be available on iTunes one day somehow is really gratifying. Before you go back to the grind of
Yeah, creation.
birthing white dwarves and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh God, I cannot
Makes
tell
me
you how
sad.
much of a pain that can be.
Quarks.
Yeah.
Quarks are a problem, I think, aren't they?
Those neutron
just,
stars.
Time stream, keeping that all
The time
unraveling, and
Yeah.
you would not believe how many times
Get it?
the universe is unraveled. I
No
had to
pun
put that together.
intended.
It's like, oh jeez. God.
You should definitely take it easy, Ace. Like,
I should, but I care too much.
don't want to overexert
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's my greatest flaw. I cared too much about everyone.
Yeah.
You
I feel kind of
terrible
sad,
human.
actually, that this will never actually get to iTunes because Apple probably doesn't like us.
I mean,
No offense, Apple.
the process of putting it on iTunes is actually really easy. It's just that we've been kind of lazy about it.
Well, yeah, okay.
Um,
Creator of
we
the
have-
universe doesn't want to put things on iTunes because he's too lazy.
He's got better things to do with his time.
I am actually. Well, the thing is, like, I actually am fairly busy, but I like keep on trying to delegate it to people, and then I find out later on that they just gave up after about 5 minutes of trying.
Yeah, it's because we don't have the, like, we can't steal ourselves like the creator of the universe can.
Yeah.
We don't have that sort of moral fiber.
Oh well, I just have to deal with that fact.
Hmm.
At any rate.
Anyway, back to the interview before we got all
Anyway.
caught up on you again. No,
So-
joke.
Peter, one thing that I was wondering about was that for conventions, it seems that I think you've been to almost all of them.
No, I don't know about that. There's a lot of them now.
There was, I mean, like, I think
I've
you've
been to
probably
about-
you've
I've
probably
been about
been
6
to
or 7.
about, I mean, pretty much about as much as I think Michelle Krieber is like the only one that's been to more than you have. So
Oh, really? Mm.
is there something that keeps you coming back that you wanna keep on coming back to the conventions?
Well, I think they're a lot of fun, and then I keep getting asked, so I keep thinking that sounds like fun, and then I go.
It's a good reason as any to go to something.
It's a good,
Yeah.
wholesome, simple process. You get asked, and you go.
It mostly is, you know. I mean, it's more complicated than I think a lot of people understand to put a convention together and to negotiate all the contracts that are necessary and everything like that. But for the most part, it comes down to that it's a really good time, and if people are good at treating me well, and then I'm quite happy. You know, I'm fairly easy, I think, to please. As long as I have a nice bed to sleep in at night, and
Of course.
Simple creature comforts. Yeah, that's.
I have to say,
Well, it's
every
good to
time
know
I've
that
ever
we were,
been to a convention, the bed hasn't been comfortable, so clearly they treat everyone except me very well.
Oh. To be fair,
I'm looking at the Premier Travel Inn, which, if anyone isn't in England, it's just another Travelodge stay place. They're a horrible company. They took all my money and gave me a crappy bed.
This episode is sponsored by.
Yeah. No, I've been all right. I'm managed to be lucky, I think.
Do you have to? I mean, I'm guessing you're probably having to kind of fly all over the. You live in Canada.
Yes.
And most of the conventions take place in the U.S. Across the U.S. really. So I'm guessing you have to be flown down places relatively regularly in order to attend these conventions.
Yeah, I have flown down to all these places for the most part.
Do the con
Seattle,
organizers?
I have driven down to.
Yeah. Do the con organizers generally tend to fly you, or is that on your own dime?
That's that falls under the category of part of my contract, which is also not public.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So, in addition to MLP, you also mentioned before that you also work on Littlest Pet Shop.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing a few other shows.
Yeah, here and there. I mean, Littlest Pet Shop is and My Little Pony. They're the sort of two main shows that I've done. I've done I did Gundam 00. I did a lot of episodes of that, and Powerpuff Girls Z. I was in a lot, but for the most part, I just do. I still feel like lucky enough to get an episode or two of some other shows, over the years, like Tom and Jerry and Wreck-It Rabbit and Martha Speaks and who knows, many other things, but yeah, Pony and Pet Shop are sort of the highest profile too, and I'm lucky enough that I get to be on them regularly, especially Pet Shop. I'm on every week, so
that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Pet Shop. Actually, it's quite it's a lot of fun on that show because I get to do more than just my main character. I get to do satellite characters fairly regularly, so that gets to be really fun. You get to explore brand new characters fairly routinely, which is always a joy.
So you really enjoyed Littlest Pet Shop then?
Yeah, I enjoy both. I enjoy working on both shows, but more often than not on Pony, if I'm in just to say yup, then that's all that they can really give me.
Right.
For reasons. But when I'm in there saying 100 lines anyway, they can give me other things, and it, for reasons, it is okay for them to do that. And so the opportunity is there on Pet Shop, that it isn't always on Pony. Sometimes it is, and then that way, that's why I'm also, Rarity's dad and Dr. Stable and whatever 10 other things that I got to do. But because I'm not in every week on Pony, I'm not, those parts aren't necessarily available to me. But because I am there on Pet Shop, just by being there, the opportunity exists to play other things.
Which is got to be nice.
I played more characters on one season of Pet Shop than I played on 4 seasons of Pony. So that, obviously as an actor, you sort of react to that quite happily,
I can imagine. If you were given the opportunity, I'm guessing you'd probably adore the chance to go to some sort of pet shop convention.
Well, yeah, if given the opportunity, I don't know if that fan community is
Established enough for that yet?
established enough for that, or even if it will grow that much. Well, time will tell, I guess. I mean, I think the show is really fun. I was quite pleased with it once I finally saw it. You know, you can never really tell when you're recording in the studio because you record well before there's any background music or animation or any of that stuff. So you never really know what it's going to look like or how it's going to turn out or what the pacing is really going to be. And I think they've ultimately done a really good job. I think they really hit a stride with it, and I think it could have started possibly slightly stronger, but I think certainly by the middle of season 1, I think they were really rocking it, and I think it was great. I'm really looking forward to season 2. I think it's just going to be terrific.
All right, so definitely big thumbs up for Littlest Pet Shop.
Absolutely.
If you are looking for something to watch when that rolls around again, Peter
Yeah.
New, big supporter of you watching that.
Yes,
And
well,
actually-
and I'm very thrilled. I was just nominated for it's just a local award presented by our union here in BC. But I was just nominated for best voice for Sunil. So
Hey, way to go,
I'm
man!
very thrilled about that. So
That is
Up
actually
against-
quite excellent.
I'm up against Nicole Oliver, who was nominated for Zoe in Littlest Pet Shop, and Andrea Libman, who was nominated for Too Many Pinkie Pies. So I don't know that I'll win it, and that's fine.
But still,
it's a tough
Just to
category.
be
There's
considered, you know.
two other very talented actors whose performances I'm not familiar with that are nominated. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm really in there or not, but that's okay. It's just a thrill to. I'm excited to go to the ceremony and
do you ever worry that if you lose to, say, Andrea, that you will come into the studio one day and she'll just be sitting there with the award, staring at you?
well, if she did that, I would like Instagram it. I would think that would be so funny, right? Like ultimately, like we have all been around long enough to have been. It's not the first award I've been nominated for, and it wouldn't be the first award I've lost to somebody who I respect. So, we've all been around that scene long enough to understand what it's like. And if you take any of that stuff personally, well,
That would be very silly, yes.
it would be silly of you, yeah. So, and the thing is, ultimately, Andrea is a friend of mine, and I would be thrilled for her if she won it. I'd be absolutely thrilled for her. So if she did that,
It would be funny. It would be funny, not
it
hurtful.
would be hilarious and nothing else.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I would just cry privately, of course. But
This is you go, yeah, oh, that's really good. Excuse me, I have to use the restroom
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick. I have something
Yeah.
in my eye.
yeah,
That age-old excuse of "I've got something in my eye" still tides people through.
It's gonna be terrible if you actually do have something in your eye, though, and
Yeah, and everyone
everyone's
thinks
like,
you're crying.
do I need
Right,
to go
it's
to the
an
bathroom and
opportune moment,
cry? It's like, no, I
Yeah.
really have like dust
Yeah.
in my eye.
I
It
hate
actually
it when-
really hurts.
You actually have dust in your eye, and then someone comes up and says, "Are you okay?" Like they think you're like emotionally sad. Like, no, I've just got lots of dust in my eyes because it's a common occurrence inside the editing room.
yeah.
I do that actually a fair bit on with people on Skype because the only way you can actually communicate with people is through their voice. So if everyone like sighs while sounding sort of down, I'm always like, "Oh, are you okay?" And they're like, "No, I'm just tired."
You have to proclaim exactly what you're feeling, otherwise people will get the wrong idea.
Well, this is the thing, and I tweet a lot because I think it's fun, and mostly I'm saying stuff which is light or a joke, or occasionally, I'll try to say something which is, a little bit moving or perhaps a little bit opinionated, but I always try to remain respectful and, and again, I'm usually kidding, and then the number of times that you realize, yeah, I can't just type this because people won't know that it's a joke. The number of tweets, in other words, that I have written and then just deleted and moved on from because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I can't just put it out into the world because I know that I'm going to get, 300 responses saying, "Are you okay? I'm really sorry your day's going so off." And I'm like, no, it's actually I'm really great right now. You see what it is, and that's and then you're in trouble. Once you're
Yeah.
explaining your joke on Twitter,
Yeah.
140 characters or less, you're in trouble.
Yeah. This is one why I try and exaggerate or do silly things. I try and just make it as over the top as humanly possible, because if I don't, people will inevitably start going like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah,
Like,
my problem is my sense of humor often leans towards the sarcastic, and
Right.
that is always a danger when typing. Because even people that know me well sometimes will get sucked in by my sarcasm in
Yeah.
print. And
Know
they're
that
like,
feeling.
why did you just insult me? I'm like, I didn't. What? Oh, because I wrote that I hate you? That's a joke.
Yeah.
I was joking.
I was just being
I don't
sarcastic.
hate you, obviously.
Hmm.
yeah. And that's the thing, is it often comes down to like your audience, and Twitter is kind of, it's a great way of communicating with a lot of people, but
Yeah.
you do lose the fact that it's kind of hard for people who don't necessarily know you as well to understand where your humor sense comes from.
Indeed.
You can say to a friend, "Oh, Lightning Rabbit, God, I hate you so much."
You say that to me all the
obviously-
time.
I do, but I'm joking, because you know that I don't actually hate you, terrible person.
Well,
Sorry.
no.
This came out. Anyway,
I
point
hope
is,
you don't hate
other
me.
people, when if I did that on like Twitter or Facebook or something, people would be like, "Well, oh man, why are you being so cruel to this terrible human being who you were,
Wait, no, hang
somehow
on a second.
talking to on a regular
The
basis?"
thing that I think I ultimately worry about the most is because you lose followers over the strangest things. I think
Hmm.
my fear really is if I started being like that on Twitter, that I would actually start like really gaining.
Oh,
If people really thought I was just a jerk,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd be worried that all of a sudden everybody would be like, this jerk is hilarious, and then I would, I don't know,
You get like a big following of.
get a big following of guys that like how much of a jerk I am, and then I'd feel bad. I wouldn't like that. That's my big worry, actually. It's not that I would lose a bunch of followers, but I would get too many more.
Yeah.
Too many that I'm not fond of.
Yeah, and I feel, I mean, like that's terrible, and I think almost as bad as just that knowledge that not only are you going to gain much followers you don't want, you're then going to disappoint all of them when you turn out not to be that huge of a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'll leave, and it's like, oh, I didn't want you in the first place, but now that you're just leaving, I feel bad about that too.
Well, yeah, and the ultimate thing there is that for me, I really just think everyone, it's not that hard to simply respect each other. It really isn't, and that is sort of the most important thing you can do with people is respect them, and it's really not that hard. And that's the one thing that really sort of gets under my skin on social media is sometimes the anonymity of the internet. I think contributes to people thinking that they don't have to be respectful, but there are real people on the internet, just like you.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing that really grates me. But and so I'll occasionally chastise people for not being respectful.
Aye.
But I couldn't sustain being an internet jerk.
That's actually really that's really good. It's very easy for a lot of people to take the anonymity of the internet and the anonymity of other people on the internet to, like, even when they're being open about who they are, essentially using the fact that other people are anonymous to just go, well, this person's an idiot, this person's a jerk. It's okay to insult them, because it's not even like I'm insulting someone who's even admitting to their actual identity. They're just an anonymous person.
Yeah.
Online, and the thing is, they're still a person.
As a person, yeah, I take the view that especially social media is or what I was told that to call it SOMI from now on. Is that true?
No, I
Never
okay,
heard of
I,
that.
I sort
I'm
of
not
don't
very
like
social
it.
It
networking.
sounds
I'm
like
gonna-
a strange thing.
I think it sounds like a strange thing as well. SOMI sounds like a drink.
It sounds like the sister company of Sony.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe it just sounds like you're saying SOMI wrong.
Yeah.
But I just feel like look, social media is like the town square. So if you're gonna say something online, you need to be you need to imagine yourself walking into the middle of the town square and ringing a bell and saying, "Hear ye, hear ye." And then everybody in every cafe and every movie lineup and whatever is around the square is going to turn and listen to you. And are you really willing to say what you have to say then?
Yeah.
And if you're not, shut up.
Mm,
And that's it.
yeah.
You know, and I don't understand why that is so difficult. So it seems like, to me anyway, it seems like it's really difficult for people to understand that. Mind you, of course, there are some people that would ring their bell and say, hear you, and say the most insipid things in the town square. But, you know.
But generally, you don't listen to those people or idolize them in real life.
No,
To be jerks.
not usually, although some of them have radio shows.
True.
Yeah. Kind of like our one, actually. Well, no.
Well,
Sorry, Go Ahead. I may have just insulted you in a kind of weird way.
I don't know. More sort of a general insult to the whole group. And
No, not you guys.
We've all suddenly made it sound like we're all dejected. Like, oh, I guess, yeah.
Proper radio blowhards.
We're all
You
just
know
going
the
to turn
guys
around
that-
and walk away, like slouched over, just like.
That's right.
I think that's how the how End to End will eventually end, with just a montage of all of us just getting up from our computers and wandering off
wandering
dejectedly.
away into the distance. Yeah. I do think, though, that on the subject of being responsible online, like, it's been proven time and time again that what you do online has consequences in real life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. It's difficult to get inside the heads of other people, but I really don't understand, because I don't think I'm physically capable of being a horrible person to people online or in real life. Just a disclaimer there. I don't know how other people can be so kind of either immature or disrespectful to other people.
No, it boggles my mind too. And this sort of comes back around to the My Little Pony fan community, because I was shocked, really, really shocked, to see that there was a whole other internet community devoted to hating. And that is it's so far more perplexing to me than bronies ever were. The idea that you would hate bronies so actively that you would be willing to, jump in on comment threads and Reddit boards and whatever else and just
just to point out how much you dislike.
Yeah, I find that so utterly perplexing. It's absolutely baffling to me.
I mean, like, I get the idea of, like, I mean, and this happened to me in real life, and I get the idea of going to someone who doesn't get the thing, the fandom or the community, and basically telling you in person on a person-to-person basis, I don't get why you like this show.
I don't get it. I don't get it is different from calling names and
And the thing is, like, I can even, like, as much as I don't really agree with the idea of attacking someone for their personal ideas, I can at least understand the mentality behind someone who goes to someone else and says, you're a moron for liking this thing. Because, I mean, like, on a person-to-person basis, because, I mean, that's just, people do that. But I don't get the idea of a collective, community of people getting together and brought together with one goal, and that goal being to talk about how much they dislike what other people like.
Yeah, I know. It is completely alarming to me, especially when the group of people that you're speaking about is talking about. I mean, ultimately, if you take ponies out of bronies, you're left with a group of people who are talking about kindness.
Yeah.
And so, which just leaves it's so absurd to say, "Oh, I hate kindness."
It has people who do nice things.
Yeah, if you take the ponies out of it, it comes down to one of two things. It's either, grr, I hate these people for being nice, or grr, I hate these people for not being masculine enough. It's like either way.
One's an annoying
in either case, it's ridiculous. There was an event the other night that I got to go to and help a little bit with, which I thought was really terrific. The Vancouver Fringe Festival was just on here, and a friend of mine hosts a little fringe talk show in the Fringe Bar. And what she decided to do for this week of her talk show this night was to get 5 fringe performers and give them a subject that they knew nothing about, and they had to come in and they had 10 minutes and they had to give a lecture. And so I got this email over Facebook again from a friend of mine who had a show at the Fringe, and he just wrote me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this Fringe talk show, and I have to be an expert on bronies by tomorrow night. How can you help me? Do you have some funny stories of some funny run-ins?" And if I was all prepared when I wrote back, I was all prepared to say, "Oh yeah, this couple of hilarious things happened," because sometimes hilarious things happen.
Hmm.
But then I realized I needed to make a disclaimer first. I needed to first say how, before I get into the hilarious stories, I need you to know that I feel really lucky to know these people. And I feel really lucky partly because, I'm lucky to have that job. I'm lucky to be, traveling the world and meeting people and meeting such good people. And then that sort of turned into, because, look, I always run into people who have terrific stories of how this show has helped them overcome adversity, or indeed parents who have autistic kids who have been frustrated with their kids' natural antisocial behavior, and they've come. The kid has wanted to come to the convention and become the sort of center of the social spotlight. This has happened more than once. And and the parent is, weeping and saying thank you to me, and I also think thank you to the bronies, and so I started talking about all that, and I realized I wrote this entirely long thing, and then I went to the show to see him speak about it, and he was marvelous, because he basically spoke about that. He's at that point had never seen an episode, but just talking to me and talking to one other person who works on the show that he knows. By the end of his 10-minute speech, he had the whole place in sort of rapture as he pulled out a bunch of, because he was just prepared to talk about some silly stories. And he started pulling out all his action figures that he has, because he's a science guy and a science fiction guy. So he had all these, figurines from Star Wars and whatever else. And he started pulling them out and going, who am I to judge people for liking a show, for collecting the toys? And maybe, just maybe, he pulled out a Rainbow Dash and said, maybe I'm a brony too. And that was the end of the thing. And the whole place was just like, yeah! We want to be bronies! It was awesome. It was an awesome speech by
Oh wow.
a non-brony who had just given over to love. And that is what the community has done for me, and I think that's what the show has done for the community. And honestly, like, if you can't receive that lesson, then there's something, I think, desperately kind of wrong.
That's actually a really wonderful story.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to sit in a kind of silence for a second so someone else can.
We'll just do some podcast songs so everyone can sit in silence. These are the words, they've always been the words. I'm really not making them up right now. Podcast song, just let me know when you're done.
That's fine.
That
Yeah.
that there is a song. I was about to actually add something, but no, that was
I love the fact that it
Get
goes
that.
from,
gorgeous.
well, I say professional podcast, to me just staring out the window at the sunset, just going, ah.
That's a nice transition out,
I did. I
Yeah,
just stood up and looked out the window and went, ah. The world's
Yeah.
nice.
Well, it's beautiful.
The shame here is that you look out the window and see the sun, but because of the difference in time zones. I try and mimic you and look directly into the sun glaring off
Go
the windshield
blind.
of my car, aiming directly in the eye.
Yeah.
So it didn't work out quite as well.
Disclaimer
Yeah, no,
to any
I
audience
look-
members: don't look into the
I look
sun.
out to the beauty of mid-morning.
Yeah.
I look out to a day that's just overcast and gross.
Oh. Well, find beauty in it anyway.
Well, I do. We never get rain here.
I order you, find beauty.
You cannot leave this room until you've found beauty in the rain.
Oh, believe me, we haven't had rain in like 6 years. That's not even a joke. That's how little we get rain.
I've
Where
only
do
had
you
rain
live?
for the last
Where
6
are
years.
Lubbock,
you?
Texas, Panhandle of
Oh.
Texas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah,
So are you
Yeah.
gonna come to Nightmare Nights?
perhaps.
Perhaps. Cool. I think I might too.
Nice.
In that I will.
Nightmare Nights.
Yeah, convention in Dallas in November.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Man,
Actually, is there any conventions coming up, I guess, besides Nightmare Nights that you're going to be attending?
That's the only one that at the moment I know for sure I'm attending. There has been talk of a convention in Melbourne, Australia, in February, which I would love to go to, but I don't know what is happening with that at the moment. We'll see.
So, did you go to any of the conventions that happened over in Europe the past year?
Yeah, I was in I was at Galacon in Stuttgart in the beginning of August.
nice.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was just brilliant.
And where are
I was
you?
hoping to get to Buck at Manchester as well. I was very nearby at that weekend, but we just weren't able to make it work.
Oh.
I was visiting people that I family in Hull,
Really?
so I was fairly close, but it just didn't work out, unfortunately.
It was raining the whole time, I believe. I didn't go, but knowing this country, it was probably raining the whole time. So
Yeah, we had decent weather, I think, when I was there.
Where are you currently? Actually, if you don't mind me asking.
I'm currently in my bedroom.
Okay. So you're back in you're back
Very
in
specific.
Canada.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
entirely sure because you were saying I think you were saying mid morning.
Well, mid to late morning. I
Mid
would
to
call
late
it
morning.
late morning now. It was mid morning, I guess, when we started, but it's late morning now.
All right.
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver.
Nice. How is living in Vancouver?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, and certainly the opportunities that I need are here. So that's all terrific. The real estate market is a bit crazy, but beyond
Buyer's
that,
market, seller's market.
well, I mean, depending on your version of crazy, it's crazy either way.
Ah.
It's just some of the most expensive real estate in the world. I don't know why I brought that up exactly, but it's preposterously expensive.
Oh lordy, yeah. See, I'd love to. One of the places I'd love to live is Canada, but I like. At first, I was like, "Hey, that'd be great," because the thing is, the Canadian dollar is worth less than the American dollar. So, like, all I should do is make sure I have enough money to live comfortably here, then move and get a job, and I'll be okay. Now, of course, Canada's economy is strengthening beyond the U.S. and the real estate market's going crazy. It's like, oh, just
Yeah.
make my job harder. Why don't you?
Yeah, no, I I remember as a kid in the 1970s, you'd go for a trip down to the States to go shopping at the Toys R Us because we didn't have a Toys R Us, and I'd save up my little money that I had, and then you'd go to the bank to convert it, and it was like 70 cents on the dollar, so
Yeah.
you'd lose,
Mhm.
you'd lose a quarter of what you had. It was so depressing. But then you get down there and everything was cheap, and it turned out awesome. And now it's really different. Sometimes the dollar is sort of right around par now. So you end up sometimes making money and sometimes losing money when you convert.
Yeah.
And of course we have, we can get anything in Canada now that we have the Toys R Us's, and I think the only thing we don't have really is a Trader Joe's.
Well,
We're getting our first Nordstrom.
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
In Vancouver, anyway. I don't know if there's a Nordstrom anywhere else.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's still beautiful, beautiful country.
It is, yeah. I mean, I've had an opportunity over my life to travel quite a bit through Canada and through the United States, and the whole continent is really gorgeous. We're both very lucky peoples.
We definitely are.
Yeah.
There are a lot of reasons for that, but I won't go into them because it would take several
There
hours.
are people less fortunate in this podcast who don't live in nice places.
Got that right.
You love England.
Yeah, that's true. It's
Where are
like
you in
Canada,
England?
except it doesn't rain. Well, it rains more than Canada.
Oh, well, I don't know. Depends. It rains a
Well,
lot here. This is a rainforest where I live, you realize.
Yeah. Well, okay, we
Well,
complain
yeah,
about
I mean,
rain a lot
it's-
more.
It's British Columbia, and in that part of Canada, it's the same as Seattle. It rains every day.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
I
It
might
doesn't
still
rain.
stay at home there then.
I am actually
Yeah,
curious.
you might feel very much at home here. It does rain a lot.
Okay.
We get a good couple of months. Unlike in England you sort of I'm been made aware. I've been told this, so I don't know for sure because I've never been there for that long a stretch. But I've been told that even in the summer, there's not really a good sort of couple of months stretch where you're not going to get rain.
Nope. It's
It's
like a
always
couple
going to
of
be
days that are really hot, and then it goes back
maybe
to rain.
yeah. And here we get a good couple of months in the summer where you can count on it probably not raining for a couple of months,
No.
maybe once or twice. But then the rest of the year you can basically count on it raining.
Yeah. Our weather's very unpredictable. It's always like, in fact, I don't think there's ever been an accurate weather prediction for our weather. They always say it's going to be sunny, but then it rains. And we complain about that, saying, oh, we want it to be hotter. And then the next day, it's really hot, and we complain that we want it to rain because it's too hot.
It's all about expectations, isn't it?
We're just very hard to please when it comes to weather.
Same thing happens in Maine. You know, where we sit around during the summer complaining that it's way too hot and that we shouldn't be getting heat like this up north. Then the winter rolls around and it's too darn cold. Why can't we live somewhere warmer? And then the middle months roll around and it's sort of like, this isn't right either. It's not quite hot enough until it's too hot.
The difference is England's cooler than Maine. Haha.
True, but I prefer more consistent. I like consistent weather, and I'm actually more of a fan of cold than heat.
Yeah. I find it easier to keep warm than to keep cool, personally, but enough about my
You guys are
temperature
both lucky.
preference.
We only have 2 seasons here, and that's football and construction.
Uh,
We really only have 2 seasons in Canada: hockey and not hockey.
There you go.
Oh God. Hey, the sports scene. Everyone has their sports scene, and if you're not
Oh.
connected to it, it can be extremely strange. I occasionally have the thing where I go around, and my brothers and family are all huge into sports, and whenever I'm at home, I my parents' house, I'll stop in, grab some random shirts to wear, and then I run the roulette of what team am I actually wearing and who actually likes them.
Yeah.
I've walked into stores before wearing a New York Yankees baseball shirt and having Boston Red Sox fans going, "Oh, one of them, are you?"
I did that as well. I walked into a bar where my uncle was playing, and I didn't realise. I walked in wearing a Union Jack t-shirt just because it was the one that I had to hand, and I walked in and they were all from South Island. It was someone's birthday, and they were all like really hardcore Southern Irish people. So it was nice.
Oh boy.
That would be awkward.
I spent most of the evening with my arms crossed across the Union Jack just in case.
Oh God, no! Actually, I think probably the most embarrassing thing that happened to me with T-shirts was a friend. I went to go and spend some time with a friend of mine who's a fairly geeky guy, so I decided to wear a fairly geeky shirt of mine as like a D&D shirt, said "Cleric, I res dead people." And then we, thanks to his girlfriend, we decided to go and visit a Greek culture festival, which was being held at a very strictly Greek Orthodox church, where they really didn't appreciate that kind of humor. So I spent the entire thing just sort of, going, man, really like stretching my arms across my chest. It's how I enjoy walking around.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But hey, that's it's those type of random awkward moments that makes life interesting.
Yeah.
Amen.
I think at one point we were talking about ponies.
Right.
Yeah. We'll have to segue
You
it
guys
back.
like ponies?
I did have one question that revolves around season 4, and I know we can't talk too much about it, but there was one thing that that came out at San Diego Comic-Con when they showed some of the previews for season 4 coming out, and that was when the Apples to the Chorus song was revealed. Um, and I have to say that it's kind of hard to hear over the girls, but were you singing in that song as well?
Yes.
Wait, you're singing in
Oh, I did not know
Hey,
that.
Sweet.
that's
Yeah,
gonna be awesome.
the I think the mix isn't quite right.
Mm.
I think I don't know for sure, but my guess is that when that episode airs, you'll be able to hear me a little more clearly.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure.
I'm always worried about
That's
asking questions like this because it's like the minefield, unexplored territory. It's like, no, don't bring up.
Yeah, that I got a lot of questions about that right after San Diego Comic Con, and so I made a point
figuring out what you
getting
say.
an official sanction to talk about it. So I'm allowed to say something. I'm
Oh,
allowed to say yes.
oh, good.
That's more than I
It's
was
more than
actually
nothing.
expecting. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, hey, that sounds awesome.
Thank you. I really like that song a lot. Actually, it's one of my very favorites.
Yeah.
It has come up, Tony. So,
Actually, as a note that I was going to ask way earlier, but then we sort of got sidetracked onto other more interesting discussion points. But I know that you feel a certain degree of connection to your character because you obviously like playing the character. You said before.
yeah.
The recent IDW comic series, very popular series, came out with a 2-issue story starring Big Macintosh. And
Yes,
I was
heard.
wondering if you read the comics or if you had any opinion on the fact that they really did a pretty big story about you in a format that you can actually play.
I'm thrilled that they did that, but I'm reluctant to read anything outside of the scripts that I get.
More than
Not because I'm worried about what the content is going to be so much, but because it's easy to allow outside things to influence your portrayal.
I kind of figured.
And I have to be true to what the scripts are telling me. And if I start to confuse, oh well, this event happened that really, made him feel hurt around whatever else, then you never know that there's.
It could influence you in a way that
it can always influence. I'm able to sort of keep like, obviously in Hearts and Hooves Day, him and Shira Lee got, the love poison and almost got married, and then. And some episode in season 3, I guess they were seen walking together. And so I know everybody is like, ooh, maybe about the future. And I won't talk about whether or not. But I just, I'm able to sort of draw that line and say, okay, well, so the animators and the scripts are saying, that those two are friends. So if and when a script ever comes up where they're together in a scene, I can now play their history appropriately.
But it's just because it's from the official show.
Just based on that. Yeah. But if then I read a whole bunch of fan fiction or comics or whatnot where they're
something else,
doing something else, then
it would influence. It could influence.
It would be easy to forget. I think if I did enough of that, it would be easy to forget where the show creators have actually drawn the line.
That's more than understandable, yeah.
And so yeah, I just don't want to. I do want to protect what is coming down the pipe that I'm being. I have to do what is expected of me when I get this. And I know that mostly that is not going to impact my character because he just says yep. But every now and then, a Hearts and Hooves Day comes along, and I need to be able to respond to that.
Purely based on
complicated script.
What the writers have given you.
Yeah.
No, that's completely fair. Though I do have to ask.
But I'm thrilled. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely thrilled that's out there because I do think he's an interesting character and I think he's really worth exploring. But none of us on the show staff are really allowed, I think, even to look at.
I've heard that before, and it is a completely understandable policy that you don't want to allow yourself to be influenced by other people's stuff that isn't actually related to what the show wants you to be doing.
Yeah,
that's completely
and
reasonable.
I think it must be something. I was a writer on a Canadian comedy show called Point Blank a number of years ago, and even on that show, we couldn't read submissions. Sometimes people would submit a script to us, but we couldn't even read the submissions. and it's for legal reasons. And I think probably something similar is happening. And again, I don't know, but I think something similar may be happening here, because as soon as you open yourself to somebody else's work, if you happen to be working on something similar, which happens, and it becomes known that you have read something similar, that
Suddenly,
it's not on your staff,
yeah,
then suddenly you open yourself up to litigation, because now
it's influenced by.
where is the line between what you were influenced by just out of your life that you wrote and what you were influenced by that came out of somebody else's work?
Yeah,
And
considering how many people have been accused of ripping off or plagiarizing other people's work purely based on just the fact that it is a widely accessible piece of literature.
yeah. I think Dave Polsky had a story about this in at TrotCon, I think. And I'm not going to be able to remember the story totally, and I can't even remember which episode, but apparently one of the episodes he wrote for season 3 was similar to a fanfic that had come out just a couple of months prior. And so there was a bit of a buzz about, Polsky has ripped off this fanfic. But what people forget is that we record the episode a good 8 months ahead of the air date.
Yeah.
Because they still they're animated after we record it, which means we already have the script, which means the script has been written at least a couple of months before we get it. So you're talking about a year in advance.
Yeah.
So he, and so he would have had to have been, influenced by that fanfic 8 months at the minimum before it existed.
Yes.
In order for it to.
It's a very convenient conspiracy theory, but it doesn't actually hold up if you look at the way these things are actually created.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So,
I think the one that they were talking about was Keep Calm and Flutter On, because that one was technically that was the one with Discord in it.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen all of season 3 yet, so
I don't even remember that one.
I don't watch this show. It's kind of girly.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. I assumed we all watched it. Sorry, I'm clearly I'm on the wrong podcast.
Are you kidding?
I know what happens at the end of season 3. I'm afraid. I do.
But the funny thing about that was that it was actually when they played the credits at the beginning of the episode, they actually said written by Dave Polsky, story by Teddy Antonio.
Did they?
Which I guess would have been the person that wrote the fanfic then.
Probably, yeah.
Interesting, but I don't know. It all sounds kind of conspiracy theory-ish, but
those crazy conspiracy theories.
I'm sure it's nothing, and that our glorious Hasbro overlords will in no way be annoyed at us for suggesting that there was even a possibility that they were not being 100% straight and honest constantly.
Wait, so Hasbro's are overlords as well now?
No. They have
sounded
no
very
influence.
sincere.
Yes, it did.
Moving on. So, Delta, you've been quiet most of this time. I'm sure you have a question.
Not really. Not at the moment, anyway.
Okay.
I could try to play it cool, but it's obviously not going to happen, so...
I will ask a question then. You said the way the production works is the animation's created afterwards. Not massively in the know with this sort of thing, but I'm assuming that there are times when the animation is created first.
Yeah, there's basically two kinds of voiceover work in cartoons you can do. One is called prelay, where you lay the vocal track down prior to animating, so you pre-lay the vocal track, prelay. And the other is called ADR, and there are conflicting ideas about what ADR stands for, including after the damn recording, but that is, or something like that. I always forget what the real thing means, what the real thing stands for, which I really should know, to be honest. But it is when you are dubbing, basically. And that would be like on Gundam 00 or any of the anime shows that I've done, where you obviously they've made the cartoon in Japanese for a Japanese audience, and then automated dialogue replacement, I think, is what it's called. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know about automated actually.
Yeah.
I don't-
Yeah, it
it's
couldn't
not-
be automated, could it? Because it's not.
See,
dialogue
I would have
replacement. TR
personally
is
thought-
right.
yeah.
The automated sounds wrong to me. Anyway,
Or additional dialogue recording.
additional dialogue.
I might have thought it would be after dialogue recorded, or I don't know. But
Anyway,
point
So-
is,
so what you're doing is, obviously they did a prelay record with Japanese actors in those cases, and I've done dubbing on German shows and French shows and whatever. So they've done the prelay on the original language, animated the cartoon and aired it, and then sold it to an English-speaking market. And in that case, you have to match the animation, which is actually much more difficult. Because you have to. This is why it always looks a bit funny when you're watching a dubbed show, is because you're trying to match not only the you're trying to match your English delivery to in most cases that I've done a Japanese lip flap, which is different. Like so they've tried to write it so that an ah sound will match an ah shape in the mouth. So you're trying to hit all those marks. But then also you have to deal with the fact that the actor might pause in funny places. And if the actor has paused in funny places, then you have to match where the actor has paused. So it might be like this because the actor initially has done it strangely.
yes,
So
and
you have to kind of hit all those breaks.
same odd bits. And there's the fact that the sentence structure isn't necessarily the same.
Yeah, right. And then on top of that, you are trying to make a performance that is realistic and viable. So it's a really complicated thing to do. ADR prelay is much easier actually. Yeah. Much more fun, I think, because you get to really just do whatever you want. Play.
It allows more freedom, does it then?
It certainly does. So there you go. Those are the two kinds of things that you do.
Fair enough.
For anyone in the audience, by the way, who is interested, in the UK it's also called post-synchronization. Because that's why I didn't know anything about ADR, is because it's called something completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fascinating. We're running a little low on time, but there is one last question I wanted to make sure we got to before we finished. When we had Kelly Mescar on the show a while ago, we asked her what she would do if given her own show about her character, wherever she wanted as a spin-off to the main series. And I was wondering, what would you like if you were given any type of show you wanted? But it's about Big Mac. You're the main character, of course. Just, your ideal show that doesn't have to make any sort of sense or actually work at all.
You know what I think would be interesting? I think it would be interesting to have, and there may even be a series in it, of just Sweet Apple Acres. I think when, around the time that the parents disappear, I think that would be interesting to see sort of a younger Big Mac. Having to learn how to deal with all the responsibility on the farm and all that stuff. Having to learn his own life lessons. I think that would be interesting.
That would actually be that actually sounds really good.
You can call it Big Mac Origins, like everything else that
we make. Big Mac Begins
with Wolverine, but with apples instead of blade hand.
There you go.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I think I would be interested in that.
We're doing the gritty reboot. It's probably actually just be called Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac Revolution.
No, just Mac, because we have to make it as confusing as possible. So it's just
make it
the
as
name.
cryptic as you can.
Just be called BM.
Oh, that's
There you
good.
go.
That's good. Yeah.
Right, and then people just won't know what the heck it is.
Just don't call it anything. Just have a blank space where the title would have been.
It just says coming soon. It's just red.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a
Coming
minimalist.
soon. I want to see that movie.
That's great.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's
I don't
filled
know.
with mystery. It makes me want to see it more.
Yeah, all of this is just red with like the word "new" over top in white.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all they give you, and they love the internet. They love the internet. Just try and work it out on their own.
Yeah,
The mystery box.
make it happen.
You heard us, internet. You heard us, Hasbro, who I'm sure is actually listening to this.
Oh yeah.
Take
probably.
back the series. It's
Yeah.
back
I
on
always
the
wonder
farm.
whether Hasbro just listens to
They
everything
always
like
come
this.
to us for all their new series
They get
ideas.
scripted,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Clearly.
Well, they. I've told them this before, obviously, just because they actually have a chip in their brain and they know everything that I'm thinking.
Mhm. Oh, of course. It's weird. When
Right.
I envision Hasbro, I just imagine, like, the corporate building that they're based in being the entity that is Hasbro. I don't think about actual people working for Hasbro. I see Hasbro as a giant thing.
Just a
It's secretly a
supercomputer.
robot.
The
Yeah.
shiny walls on the outside and
Yeah.
spinning
The whole
reel to
thing
reels.
is-
It's not actually a
just a
company
giant
made up
machine.
of men. The company has like the building itself is Hasbro.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Actually, I have met some people that claim to work at Hasbro, and they seem very nice. So
Oh, the
So
the
no one's
commentary
actually
tracks.
met for sure people from Hasbro. It's only people claiming to be from Hasbro. No one
The
knows.
commentary, the commentary tracks actually have a couple of producers, executive producers from Hasbro,
Mm.
and they actually seem like really nice folks. But that could just be the machines putting up human puppets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
yeah,
Oh God, we're gonna get destroyed by somebody at some point. But
No.
until that time,
all my experiences with Hasbro have been really good so far.
Yeah.
So
No,
hopefully that continues.
they have consistently shown themselves to be actually a pretty decent company. I'm not just saying that because of all the times I've jokingly, decried Hasbro is going to destroy us, but no, they actually have consistently, acted in a way that's extremely nice. They've been pretty good about fan content.
Very benevolent.
Yeah,
Like a caring
I've seen
father.
Hasbro executives not just on Pony but also on other major Hasbro properties like Magic the Gathering, really just consistently being pretty decent people.
Yeah, I mean, I think they obviously have to protect their interests from time to time, and I understand that, and I think that has impacted some people, unfortunately, but that's what
Yeah.
they have to do under the law if they want to keep ownership over their
Yeah.
over their property. So that's just what goes on.
Yeah, sure.
But beyond that, I really don't think that there's anything. I haven't seen any evidence of them being particularly. They have this reputation. I think somehow, and I don't really get it because I've not encountered that.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it pretty much just comes down to the fact that it's a huge corporation that has a very, very large, very internet savvy fan base, and the thing is that fan base creates things which straddle the line between fair use and copyright infringement and extreme copyright infringement,
Yeah.
and they're actually they're pretty darn lenient. I mean, really, especially compared with a lot of other companies, which I won't name, but if you spend even a few minutes
Yeah.
online looking around, you'll see some companies that have very, very draconian laws about this sort of thing. Hasbro's pretty good, but the thing is, because of how big it is, and because of how big the community is, and because of the fact that bad news tends to travel a lot faster than good news, especially if it's really interesting. The bad stories, which usually have pretty decent explanations behind them, will be picked up and circulated a lot more than the good stories about them just taking a hands-off approach.
Yeah.
So it ends up getting them a really bad reputation that they really don't deserve.
To be fair, they haven't. Even the worst thing they've done isn't that bad compared to they haven't really done anything necessarily that's. I mean, personally, I haven't really seen any of the kind of mentality that Hasbro is actually an evil kind of corporation. I've seen people joking around about it, like just pretending that they're this massive, giant corporation that keeps cease and desisting things, but actually, they haven't done that very often, and when they do, it's for perfectly legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
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 Well, and I don't know the law very well, but my understanding of the law in the United States is that if they want to maintain ownership of their copyright,
Hmm.
that it is the onus is on them to cease and desist if they become aware of somebody making money off their own copyright. That's somebody
Yeah.
told me that that's how that works in the U.S. And
Mm.
so
Yeah, it's pretty close.
they have a legal responsibility to cease and desist if they are made aware of people profiting off of their product. So otherwise, they're considered not to care about their product and not considered not to care about the ownership of their product.
And that allows
Yeah.
other people to claim fair use over other things because they can essentially say, you didn't stop them, you are stopping this.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're, deliberately just, pointing your cans
Yeah.
at this person arbitrarily, and therefore it's not actually copyright.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's,
I can't speak for what goes on there. I've never been to Hasbro. I don't work directly for Hasbro. I don't,
Hmm.
so I don't know anything. But it just seems to me that they seem to have this attitude that the less they know, the happier they are.
Yeah.
And but when they do find out about stuff, they have to act, and that's just the law. That's not them.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if they were really a deliberately malicious company, then there is no way that any of the conventions, any of the fan art, like artists who sell their merchandise, none of the people, heck, even people who write fan fiction are all technically, in a position where they could easily be taken down by an extremely aggressive, company that didn't want that stuff. Hasbro doesn't do that. Hasbro is, really only gets involved when it is a severe copyright infringement or something they really can't afford to ignore. So
Yeah.
a lot of respect for them for that.
Two things actually. I believe the Copyright Design and Patents Act in England says the same thing as well. So just randomly saying that, and also Hasbro seems a bit like, the more we talk about it, it seems a bit like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in the respect that nothing seems to go in or out. Although I wouldn't want to risk insulting them by saying that it's staffed by Oompa Loompas. I think that'd be
Nothing.
yeah.
Sorry.
Now I'm imagining the president of Hasbro with an office that has only half of everything in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh God, this is brilliant. Just imagining a bunch of corporate suited Oompa Loompas with Willy
sitting around
Wonka.
half of a boardroom table.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can see it now.
That's a great mental image.
President
Thank you.
Hasbro walking around in a purple suit with a cane doing somersault.
Now I'm imagining that the executive of Hasbro is Gene Wilder.
I would love to work.
That's where I went.
Yeah.
I would love to work for executive Gene Wilder.
Yeah. You'd have to be an Oompa Loompa though.
I'd consider that an acceptable loss.
I'd gladly be an Oompa Loompa to work under Gene Wilder as his assistant executive.
It's a fair trade-off.
I've got a case of the giggles now. Well, I think we're just about out of time, but I want to really thank you again, Peter New, for coming on the show. You have been an absolutely delightful guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been lots of fun and interesting and silly and everything one could hope for.
Yes.
Thank you so much for saying so. We'll be back.
I really wish you guys good luck getting a second broadcast show.
Thank you.
We can do it.
Fingers crossed. But yes, for end to end, this has been Duhod, Firebolt, Lightning Rabbit, Delta, and Peter New. We hope to see you again next time, and we hope that you, Peter, get all the work you could ever hope for going ahead.
Thank you.
See you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh God, I'm actually
Madness. Okay, I'll stop the recording now.